Y'all ready? Okay. So, once again, let's take a peek at our picture. Hypothalamus. But now remember, the posterior pituitary is an extension of the hypothalamus, therefore being the neural tissue. So what do we have here? We have our hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract, because these are the axons of the neurons going from the hypothalamus synapsing on the nervous tissue of the posterior pituitary. So the anterior has the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. The posterior, the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. Now, up here, once again, they're trying to show us the green and the red. So stimulating, I know they say, I'm sorry, I'm stuck on stimulating. Releasing, inhibiting. Is everybody with me? Now, we get the synapse. That signal travels to the posterior pituitary, synapses on these cells that are here, depending upon whether it's a stimulating or inhibiting that got released. That means we will produce either the product or not. So that's a difference. It simply is based upon synapses of this neuron onto the neural tissue in the posterior. Well, it'll still be a product that got produced, but that's once again a neurohormone, and it will be received by the cell, because once again we're neural tissue, so it'll be received by the neural tissue over here. So once again we have a control. Not every one will have the receptor for both, because only two are produced. So if we look at what takes place, we get the product produced, the product leaves, goes to its target tissue. Well, let's see what gets released. One of the hormones that's released, or that's controlled, I should say, by the posterior pituitary, anti-diuretic hormone. When you hear anti-diuretic, well, let's take it down even lower. Diuretic. What up? Going to the bathroom. Okay? Now, look at our terminology. Anti-diuretic hormone, also known as vasopressin. Have you ever heard of that one before? How have you heard of it? Blood pressure medication. There's a medication term called vasopressin. All right, and it's for blood pressure problems. So, we haven't gotten to this part yet. So I'm going to try to get us to understand a little bit about this. In part 1, did you guys talk about osmolarity? Yeah. Okay. Osmolarity is dealing with the concentrations of the solutes within the body. Okay. So, sometimes when lab work is done, it comes back to you with information based on osmoles. Okay? So what an osmo, when we hear that term, osmo, okay, think of these products, these electrolytes, and water. Okay? So in the body, all right, in the hypothalamus, we have these receptors for osmo. Okay? So these osmoreceptors monitor the changes of intercellular osmolality. Is there really a difference between osmolarity and osmolality? No. Okay. Why they can't just be uniform in it, I have no idea. Okay. I have a minor in chemistry, but it wasn't my favorite topic. Okay. Now, if the concentration of electrolytes increases, let's say I got a beaker, all right, got some fluid, okay, got my electrolytes, all right, if the electrolytes increase, that means I'm going to get more of them. What did I do to my water level? My water level went down. Electrolytes are going to be what? Sodium. We're going to have stuff like our sodiums, potassiums, our stuff that we refer to as the salts. So, in my cellular makeup, I got bunches of salts, but not as much water. Is that a good situation for a cell in the human body? No. We need those cells of the human body. Do we need them to be, we'll go table 4, hypo, iso, or hypertonic? What's the best? ISO. I said 4, but I held up 3, didn't I? Sort of like walking into the room and forgetting what I got put on ISO. Y'all go with it. Good. We want them, like Ashley said, ISO. Okay? So, this would not be situation of isotonic. So what's going to happen? Osmoreceptors are picking up that information. So they need, at this point, ADH. So we have the osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus has a direct connection to the posterior pituitary, which produces ADH, and it's saying, give me ADH, give me ADH. So in that posterior pituitary, ADH gets produced. So that means that posterior pituitary needs to release that hormone. The posterior pituitary has the ability to store ADH. No other hormone, note my terminology, no other hormone is stored in the pituitary. ADH is the only one. Now, the other way that we can get the production of ADH. Do you guys remember the baroreceptors? Okay, when we have our heartbeat, okay, it's really cool the way the heart beats, okay? It starts at the base, starts at the apex and works its way up. It's like this ringing motion that occurs. It goes, okay? Even though it's separate cells, they're so coordinated, it makes it look like the heart is beating as one unit, but it's not, okay? When it beats, the blood in the ventricles goes into the aorta under extreme pressure, okay? And then it begins to branch, and as we begin to branch, we have the baroreceptors. The job of that baroreceptor, okay, they're going to be a very specialized neuron. They're in the walls of the atria. They're found in large veins, the aorta, and the branching of the veins off of the aorta, the carotid arteries, and in the aortic arch as it begins to bend. Their job, check on blood pressure. Now, blood pressure. Normal conditions. They, and y'all remember who they are, right? I explained who they are? Yeah. Okay. They tell us roughly this. However, they like to see that. Okay? And if they can see this, your doctor's going to jump for joy. However, I think it's a little too low. Okay? That's just me. All right? I kind of like the 110/70. I don't know how, but that's usually where mine stays. Sometimes I get into the 60 and they have to retake it, and I'll be, am I alive? You know? So, blood pressure. This is telling me information on how well material is making it to the tissues of my body. What would happen if blood pressure decreased? What would happen to the supply to the tissues of my body? That would decrease also. I'm sorry, I forgot to hold the finger. Okay. Is that a good situation to have? No. What happens, table 2, if I decrease the supply of blood to my tissues?
Or your heart rate increases to compensate for your blood pressure.
They die. And heart rate can go up. Oh, I'm taking a first aid class right now. I know you're probably thinking, huh? What? Okay. Yeah, you know, refresher. So, the professor made us watch the movie 127 Hours. Have y'all seen that? Yes. Okay, I watched it. It's about the dude who was rock climbing, got his arm stuck, had to cut his arm off. Okay, don't ever make me watch that again. Oh, ladies. However, in the one part of the movie, it did talk about how fast his heartbeat got because of, you know, the cut and that sort of thing. So, anyway, yes, the heartbeat can speed up to try to compensate for the loss everywhere else. So, if blood pressure decreases, what's happening is we're getting a decrease of the blood supply, which means nutrients, getting rid of waste, everything that needs to be done at that cellular level has now decreased. So, what happens? We stimulate ADH secretion. So, the antidiuretic hormone can get released in these times, and basically when we get into the chapter talking about the circulatory system, you're going to understand more about why this water level of the blood is important. Not that electrolyte level, but the water level, the fluid, okay? Well, I can't really call, I gotta say what it is, the water level, Okay, that's why it's going to become important. So when we get the secretion of ADH,